Hello and welcome to One Day Today. We are on episode 42, and I'm really excited about our guest today. But first, I'd just like to start just to kind of get in the mood. Today is the day. Instead of playing it safe, I can enter into that space to be willing to face the chaos in front of my face. God is giving me grace. All the pain and disgrace goes away, and I can't help but embrace the possibility and fill in that page to create a reality I never knew could take place. Welcome. I'm really, like I said, I'm really excited about our two guests today. We have you'll get what I mean later, but we have a TNT tour. Just started, just was birthed about 5 or 10 minutes ago. Both our guests are just the limited time that I've known them. I'm already inspired. I'm already really, really excited. But in this space, this stage is for you, is for you to share the gift that you are. You know, we all, whether we see it or recognize it or not, we all have a unique gift. We all have a unique genius that has something that we all benefit from. We all gain from. And that's what this space is for. And amidst pandemic and civil unrest and all the conversations of fear and of resentment, of survival, there's still people doing amazing, beautiful things who are contributing to something much bigger than themselves. And that's what this space is for, is we're focusing on the beauty in the world. We're focusing on the amazing spirits who are just lights or lighthouses for love and compassion and just for beauty and wonder in this world, and that's the way I see it. The more beauty and wonder that we experience from the people that are just shining from within, like, we all receive gifts, and we all are able, when we can see ourselves and others sharing themselves authentically and truly, we all have a gift. And when each of us sees our gift, we each receive how many people are in the world now? Maybe 7-8 billion. So 7 billion gifts. And this is what this space is for. We want to share the gift that you are. Well, let me welcome and say hello to Matthew, our co-host. Matthew, good to see you, brother.
Hey, brother man. Sorry about the noise in the background. It's downtown Lenore City as much as there is a downtown here.
It's rush hour.
Yeah, exactly. After the rainstorm. How's it going today?
It's going well. Today is, every day feels like it's a week, and every week feels like it's a month lately. Today was no exception, but starts off, feels like there's everything to do, and then I'm kind of getting my stride. I'm like, everything is exactly where it needs to be, and learning the lessons I need to, and just focusing and being intentional about being grounded among all the chaos and ensuing conversations around. But I'm doing great. I can't complain. It's a beautiful, beautiful day.
Yeah, it's funny you bring all that up. Like, if you actually, well, no, it's not, because it is and it isn't. But if you notice the background I switched to today, this is Kalalau Valley on Hawaii, and something inspired me at the beginning of the show. Just a little magic that happened. I'm sure we'll get into later, but I put it up because my life when I was living there was magical. Like, everything always came to be the most perfect timing, like beyond anything I could ever possibly imagine. They started calling me Mr. Synchronicity there because I always ended up in the right place at the right time, like somehow magically. And I'm starting to experience that more and more in my everyday life here now. And having the TNT tour today, like, it's that same synchronicity, it's that magic that's just happening. You know. Oh, you're muted, buddy.
That sounds great. Let's kick off the TNT tour while we're at it.
Let's do it.
Let's welcome Tybris.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hi, Tybris. Thank you for joining us. So glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm most appreciative to you both. I appreciate y'all. And you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Fantastic. Well, I'm just so excited. When we spoke earlier, you inspired me. So I just wanna get started. So if you're okay with it, Tybris, the stage is yours.
Oh, the stage is mine. That's the first time I've ever heard that. I receive it. Thank you so much, Abram, and thank you everyone that is here. I am Tybris Speaks, and I speak to the greatness that is within you. Now, I'm going to share first what Tybris means, because in accordance with everything that Abram was saying, and I love Matthew talking about Mr. Synchronicity and things are just lining up. Tybris, that's, I always say it, that's my name. I was a poet about 20 years ago, and I would get on stage, coming to the mic is Tybris. I want to share what Tybris means, and here it is. Tybris means to be living life abundantly, walking with the confidence, knowing that God is your backbone, keeping you strong through life experiences. To be opening eyes, minds, and hearts to learn the lessons being taught, while never being ashamed of who you are, rather realizing you've been set apart for greatness. That's what Tybris means. So I took that as and that came to me February 2004. So that's been my own personal motto for over 16 years now. And a couple years later, from around 2006, I happened to be in an English class. And I don't know if y'all remember English from grammar school English, where you had to learn the subject, the verb, what they do, all of those things. What do they call them? Breaking down sentences, diagramming sentences. And so here I am, I'm in court reporting school, taking a basic English class, and I had to go through all that grammar and going over verbs again. They talked about the to be verb, and the to be verb is a state of mind, a state of being. And so, of course, I thought about how I said Tybris, to be living life abundantly. So this is a state of being. So as a Tybris state of mind, to be living life abundantly, walking with the confidence knowing. That's future tense, to be. To make it present tense, we can change the to be to I am. And then it goes, I am living life abundantly. I am walking with the confidence knowing that God is my backbone, keeping me strong through life's experiences. I am opening eyes, minds, and hearts to learn the lessons being taught. I am not ashamed of who I am. I do realize that I've been set apart for greatness. So I am statements make everything solid in my world. It's like putting a nail. I hope my computer, I'm over here, is on my lap, y'all. I am make everything solid in the world. And for me, that's just it. I am living life abundantly. And so the Tybris, that's Tybris, what Tybris means. And to continue on into that, into the uniqueness of us, what Abram was talking about in terms of me seeing myself in you and you seeing yourself in me. One of the things that I've learned over my journey, and I started doing love of self. I started on my journey of learning how to love myself in today's world about 20 years ago. And so I am 22 years into that journey, and the clarity and the trials or the experiences that I have gone through have shared or taught me principles. And what I've learned is, and this is one of the quotes that came out of my journey, is details change, principles remain the same. A lot of times we as people, we are always comparing ourselves to others, whether it was, I had a hard childhood. Oh, well, my childhood wasn't that bad. Well, it doesn't matter how bad or challenging your childhood was, it was still bad. The baseline is we had challenges in childhood. Those details of those challenges, those change. Now, the beauty of how can we come together is, did you learn anything? Because if you learned something that helped you, then share that. One of the things that I know as people, there's something we have in common. When we find something good, we want to share it. That's automatic. That's natural. So in understanding that it doesn't matter about your details, it's the principles that matters, the baseline. So never, this is my encouragement to myself and us all, that no need to compare who you are to anybody. Abram mentioned about the number of people in the world. There are, at last I checked, 7.5 billion people in the world. You are the only you out of 7.5 billion people. So what does that mean in monetary value? That you yourself is $1 billion. $1 billion. You yourself is $1 billion. I'm sorry, I have people in the house cleaning around. They was knocking on the door. You yourself, $1 billion. Now, when you understand that you are $1 billion, your value is 1 billion, and that's bringing it into this world, in this chaotic world with everything that we're experiencing. You right now, your value is $1 billion. Then that means that there's more to you than just money, because no one can just come up to you and say, I would like to say hi to you. And to say hi, I know that costs $1 billion. So here goes $1 billion for me to say hi. When you understand that no one around you can afford you, then you start looking for the other things that are priceless. And so what is the pricelessness of everyone? Is the gift, like what Abram was saying, the gift that we bring to the world. Now, what I've discovered is a lot of times people look at gifts as, okay, you can sing, so you're gifted. You can act, so you are gifted. You can dance, so you are gifted. What people overlooked is that a gift is anything that adds value or joy to you as well as someone else. So if you have a beautiful smile, smiles are valuable. Smile, that is your gift. And like there's a saying, your gift makes room for you. And I use the saying right now. I don't know if y'all go into Walmart or gas stations or anything. Nowadays, when you walk into places, everybody's saying, hi, welcome to wherever. So I said, wow, they have made, it's in our face every day. They're called greeters. Greeters. So it does not matter in terms of a talent, like music talent or dance talent. I would encourage everyone to get quiet and find out what it is you do. Here, do you have great handwriting? Are your hands pretty? All those stuff, all those things matter. All those things matter. Never suppress it or compare yourself to another, because your smile is needed. You are needed. Here's another quote. There is no we without me, and there's no us without you. You matter. So nowadays, with everything that's going on and people trying to find their way or trying to emulate or copy other people, I think I need to do this. Okay, that's gonna make me better. I think I need to do this. That's gonna make me better. When no, only thing that's gonna make you better is you embracing you. Because we can't have a we without a me. We can't have a us without a you. So if you don't know you, then where are you in the us? You matter. Let's see. So many things. Oh, I'm gonna just repeat that, y'all. I'm gonna repeat that you matter. I wanted to talk about being a green machine. And green is the color of love. Green is the color of love. And green is also the color of money. And a lot of people are looking for money, especially in these times. How can I make money? Where can money come from? When first, what I've learned over my journey in these 22 years is that I am the wealth. I decide. I am the green machine. I am the green. First, I must understand that green is love, though. So first, I have to take it in and learn how to love myself, to go out to others. And when you do that, that green starts to flow, the green machine, and then here comes finances, money with that. And as patience with yourself, patience with yourself, patience with yourself. And I say patience with yourself because a lot of times when we are learning anything new, we want to get it down all in one sitting, all right away. If you are new to embracing who you are, your individuality, understand it's going to take you some time to really boldly speak about who you are. It will take time, practice, put it like that, practice. Because if you haven't been comfortable practicing being you, and when I say practicing being you, and that's just speaking up for yourself or just taking a stance, and we have to practice it because it's like going to the gym. We're in a society right now where it's conditioned to be like others and not like self. However, what we are cultivating right here, it is the understanding of individuals individuals, and the individuals themselves reflect one another. We are all the same. Details change, principles remain the same. Your details are just different than mine. However, you are still a beacon of love. You are still a green machine. So before I get out of here and go, I just want to leave y'all with a couple things. Number one, understand that you matter. You matter. Everything about you matters. When it comes to perfection, you are perfect because you are the only you in the whole entire world. So perfection is an outside thing. That's somebody else's standard of what looks good. Oh, that's perfect. And a lot of times that gives people an out to not really embrace who they are. So you are perfection. You are perfectly you. Even if you mess up. And that's in quotes. You determine what a mess up is. You matter. Everything about you matter. Understand, details change, principles remain the same. Everybody experiences sadness. We just experience it differently. So the thing is to share how you come out of sadness. How did that work for you? Don't compare stories. There's no comparison. You are the only you, and you matter. $1 billion. You are a billion. And then the closing one that encompasses all that Abram and Matthew is talking about in terms of us coming together. There is no we without me, and there's no us without you. You matter. And then when you're in the mirror, you just turn around and say, I matter. So so I'm going to close with those three. I thank you all for your time. I appreciate you being here, being present with me. And that's it. Peace, love, and light. Be a green machine. The love, green. The money, green. All comes from you. You matter. And until next time, remember, I am Tybris Speaks, and I speak to the greatness that is within you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Tybris. That was so beautiful. You are such a you have such a beautiful energy and a warm emanating just your presence is it's just so contagious. So just thank you for being you and the gift that you are.
Oh, thank
There's
you.
something that you said that really resonated with me. I have one question. Well, a lot of questions I could ask, but one thing I wanted to ask you is, when or where or how did you discover I am Tybris Speaks? Where did you recognize and distinguish that power in your life?
So I wrote that in 2004, the definition, and it became my own personal motto in February 2004. It didn't become powerful, meaning I was taking it in and I'm walking with it until 2016. And the transitions that took place leading up to that was, I was married, I had 2 children, and then when the marriage ended a month after my son was born, that really propelled me into deeper thought into myself. And then when I started just laying out, being bold. See, there's this word out that a lot of women don't like to be called. It's called bitch. Nobody want to be called a bitch. Tabitha, I don't even remember her last name. She said she gave an acronym for it, which is brave, intelligent, tenacious, creative, and honest. So you have to be brave enough to even sit down to get quiet with yourself. So it started up in, I'd say the power came in 2016. The divorce happened in 2014 though. But 2016, when I was just speaking it out and being brave enough. And then the more I was brave with myself, then I was brave with others. And then it didn't matter. And right now, what y'all are experiencing right now is the manifestation. I just moved into my own place, my own house, first house 2 weeks ago, August 4th. And that really solidified things for me because no one can tell me anything, nothing, no more. Because of my own walk that led me here into the house, that if you put in the address, it comes up as the bank. This house used to be a bank. So I hold the keys to the bank. It took me 22 years to hold the keys to the bank. That's real. That is real. Yes, Matthew.
Oh, I
So
love it.
I mean, it's so many. That question is it's so rich
Yeah.
and thick, Abram. You know. So I hope I answered it. Yes.
Absolutely.
I I think what I love the most, like out of everything that you said, is actually something you haven't said, but you've been pointing to with everything you've been saying.
Oh,
You make your own rules.
yes.
Make your own rules. I love that, and um, it's something that I'm starting to see more people
Mm-hmm.
realize that they have the power to do that, and this
Mm-hmm.
pandemic has accelerated that in many ways. Um, and I kind of like, just based on your story, it seems like it kind of came in bits and pieces, like, just a little break here, a
Right.
little break there, and then all of a sudden it opens. And do you remember the first rule you ever broke and rewrote for yourself?
Oh, that is so interesting. I would have to say there was this. It's funny you say a rule that I broke and rewrote for myself. Okay, this is what goes in line with that. The word conformity. Okay,
Mhm.
conformity. I definitely remember when I heard that word. I was in paralegal school in a sociology class. I probably was 19, 20 years old or something like that. And they said the word conformity. And I said, conformity, conforming. Oh my goodness. And it just stuck with me. It was like such a gross word. And I didn't even know why for me at the time. And then over years when I started seeing from I was always a rebel. I rebelled at 10 when I used to get in trouble for bees. And I was like, nope, no more. I'm running away. I no more trouble for bees. So 10 would probably be it that I started breaking conformity. And yeah, 10. And then I went to the military, and I was the only female in the military. Not in the military, in my job, I did construction in the military. So I broke some rules there in terms of, hey, I will walk this way. I will talk this way. I get the general gist of what the idea is, what the platform is, and then I see how I fit into that. So yeah, it has just evolved over time. I mean, to be bold enough to stand on your own rules, you have to be bold enough to test them out. There are 4 T's to truth that I've learned: think, test, testify. It becomes your truth. So whatever you're thinking, you're believing it. You don't know if it's for real or not until you're presented with an experience for you to test that truth. And a lot of times people don't value their thoughts enough to even test what they're thinking or believing or whatever. When your experience, the opportunity comes for you to test those experiences, now you have a testimony of that, and then that becomes your truth. And once you have your truth, that's your truth, period. We are conditioned to suppress our truth for the truths of others, but it takes being bold to say, no, this is what I thought, this is what happened, and this is my experience, this is my truth. And that doesn't change. So I started doing that at 10 before I even knew, even before I even knew. But I've embraced conformity now. I've embraced it like this: come to a place of peace, of understanding that, okay, we are in a world, and sometimes in this world we have to conform. That doesn't change who you are when you know, hey, I am living here, I chose to do this, that, and the other. And so do I want to seek peace, or do I want drama? Because people go to the courtroom and we all conform when the judge says, okay, no cell phones. However, there are people that have cell phones, and then they choose to, okay, go outside. I think it is the military maybe in me that I'm not afraid of disciplinary actions. That's another thing. When you are working to setting your own rules, you have to experiment. Life is full of life experiments. If you want a life experience, you need to experiment with life. And how do you do that but experiment with what you think, your truth, your thoughts, those things. So that's that. Man, y'all see, we can talk.
Oh yeah, I mean, we could go for quite a while. And there's okay, there's 7 different things there that I would love to tease out and kind of go back and like bring about more detail. But the one that stood out the most, not being afraid of discipline.
Yes.
Like this is a conversation that I feel drawn to encourage as much as possible. Is getting over this fear of like being the nail that stands out. Like
Right.
getting over this fear of the potential of being pounded down. So much of what humanity is doing right now, as far as I can tell, and who knows how true this actually is, but as far as I can tell, the majority of it is simply because it's the way we've been doing it for 100 years. Somebody
Exactly.
150, 200 years ago thought, hey, this is a good idea. Let's do this. And no one has actually stopped to take the time to go, okay, does this still serve us today? Or is there a better way we can do it? Or do we need to continue it at all?
Correct.
And it
Yes.
does, it seems like it comes from that fear.
It is that I agree with you 100%. I don't there's discipline. I used to be afraid of it. So I was so perfect. I
Mhm.
mean, growing up, I describe my upbringing, my life as this. I spent the first 14 years in solitary confinement, which is somebody else telling me how to think. And then I ran away at 10 and at 14, both of those liberating myself of things. The next 5 years, I say I was released into general population, whereas I'm taking I was solitary confinement, general population. Now I have to learn how to think and move and stuff for myself. And then there's a whole mechanical breakdown because if I'm a robot, meaning operating on other people's thoughts, and now I'm in general population with the others who wasn't in solitary confinement with me, and what I'm sharing is not producing. So I describe it just like that, and it keeps um that I can relate to so many people that way because as we're growing up, we're told how to think. Remember, I don't know if y'all seen the movie The Ants. It's a great movie. When the ants are born, then they take one ant and say, okay, worker, and put them in the worker box, and take the other ant and say soldier and put it in the soldier box. I feel the same thing happens with us when we're born. We are here and it's like, okay, this is a boy box, and then you have all these labels and all these things that boys are supposed to do, and then, oh, this is girl box. Then you have all these things that girls are supposed to do. So before we even are speaking, we already have what I call, manure put on us. This is a whole nother thing. So we're walking around walking manure. And everybody loved babies until babies started, crawling and talking and asking questions. Because then, oh my goodness, now you're bringing yourself to the world. No, I need to put more manure on you. And then manure. And so everybody's walking around just stinking up the place while everybody's thinking they're smelling good. And so as someone you stink up the place, then when you get a whiff of fresh air, like, what is that? And then you start going because it's just something that happens. It's like no matter what, I do not want to stay covered in manure. And so you start finding out how to wash yourself off. And then one of the beautiful things is some of the manure comes off really easily. So sometimes it's easy to change a thought or be honest with yourself on some things. Some things are easy. You know what? I really don't like chicken. I only want beef. That's easy. When you start talking about discipline or even addressing the fear that you have, that's that manure that's caked on. And I don't know if y'all been around babies. What babies would do if they have a real dirty diaper, some of it you can just wash them off, but some of them you have to get a wipe and scrub. And so on the journey of life, it's constantly evolving. Nobody's grown. In my world, nobody's grown. I'm 42, so I'm a kid with 42 years experience, period. That's how that goes. We're always growing because grown means you hit the top. But I think getting to that place of discipline and embracing it, you first have to discipline yourself. And that means if, sometimes you say, oh, I spent all my money and now my account is negative. Okay, that's a disciplinary action of you and yourself. Now, if you're still living, you're still eating, then you survived that disciplinary action that you put on yourself. Now, so you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Next time I will do better this. Never condemn yourself for learning how to walk. If you fall, you just fall and you get up. That's what happens. You know, when you start realizing that everyone falls, details change, principles remain the same. When you realize that you matter and that the other person in front of you matter, that you're scared and that other person is scared, then that makes you pretty much fearless. Because it's like, yes, I'll be a clown, because the most you're gonna do is clown me, which is laugh. And so I love to laugh. Let's laugh it out. And then after that is over, now what? Now I have elevated because I went through the experience. You, those that's just laughing, is like, oh, there's nothing else to do. No, now it's your turn. Your turn. You can't be afraid of falling or anything. And I think it's the mockery that comes from outsiders that keeps people from wanting to be disciplined. If we pay attention to everybody that's been disciplined, I'm not talking about torture, and I'm talking about discipline and love, because all discipline should prosper you. All discipline should prosper you. Never kill you. It prospers you, strengthens you. Discipline, going to the gym. You start off with 1 pound, then you get to 5 pounds, then you get to 20 pounds. Each one of those pounds hurt. It doesn't start off, if you've never lifted 1 pound weights, you do 10 reps, you're going to hurt. However, you are being built up for the next weight. So that's how I see it.
Wow. Thank you. So many things you've said are really like, you've said it so succinctly and beautifully. And I really appreciate your energy, you have this passion, and it's like I said, it's contagious. So just thank you so much, Tybris, for sharing like so many things you said. It was like, I want you to come back and share with us some more soon. Are you okay?
I will. I'm here. I am. There is no we without me, and no us without you. You matter. Everything about you matters. Everything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tybris. We're gonna circle back with you in just a moment here, but thank you so much for sharing everything. That was amazing.
You're welcome. I appreciate y'all.
No, we appreciate you.
Absolutely. See you in a bit. All right.
Well, thank you, Tybris. We'll see you in just a moment. And thank you to our guests who are viewing in. I want to take this time again to invite you and really give an open invitation to be a part of this stage. You know, this is a space, again, to share your gift, share your story, share your testimony. How did you get to this place where you see yourself and what you bring to the world is something bigger than you? And this is a space for you to share your experience. And when we share our experience, others connect and see themselves, and then they share. And it's this gift that keeps on giving. And if there's just like a littlest inkling that you maybe you kind of sort of want to share, like I invite you to follow that urge, because there's something on the other side of that is beautiful, and you won't know it until you try it. And just like, you know, Tybris was saying, you know, it's like, I've only learned from actually facing my fears. I've only truly learned from my failures. When I've fallen flat on my face, that was what I realized what I had to do to get up, and who I was when I stood up was someone way bigger than I even imagined when I was on the floor. And that's really what this space is for you. So I want to invite you to be part of the stage. And that's what our mission here is, bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. That's why we're here. That's what this space is for. So now to kick off the second part of our TNT tour, we are going to invite Tonya Don Recla. Hello, Tonya.
Hello. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have you share. I'm just gonna have you jump in, because I want you to just throw it at us. Does that sound good?
It's coming. It's beautiful.
Oh, we're ready. Tonya, the stage is yours.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, first and foremost, Tybris, amen. That's all I kept hearing was amen. I'm laughing. I'm rolling there with you. Beautiful journey you just took us on. So thank you for that, and for setting the stage in such a beautiful way. So I'm honored to be here with you all, and such a great invitation. Thank you, Abram. Thank you, Matthew. when we started talking about coming on here, and I asked, well, how can we support? What do we need to contribute to? And it was super beautiful how this dialogue of, share your gifts, share your story, share, what a beautiful space for people to appear in. And I was chuckling inwardly and said to Abram, I'm pretty much on call to spirit. So whatever happens, happens. And the idea that came through was this idea of like the espionage experience and the superpower experience, right? If you're familiar with my background at all, or if you're not, kind of like with Tybris' story, it's like there's all these pieces. Spirit will move you and guide you and flow you and shape you, and if you just follow the threads, you can see the entwinement, right? The way that it builds on itself, and so in complete transparency with that, the espionage thing is fascinating, right? People love to hear about the counterintelligence experience, and they love to hear about the superpower thing, and they love to hear about the entrepreneur stuff that we do, and they love to hear about the podcast network. Like, there's all these things that look really, really solid on paper, but there was something prior to that, and so it's really important, I think, that we never forget, right? I think sometimes as we become more and more successful, we have selective amnesia about the processes that we took to get here. And I think that that's what Tybris did such a beautiful job with, is remembering that it's a journey and remembering that everything is part of that forging. And if we pretend otherwise, we're really not just doing ourselves a disservice, but the world a disservice, because we create a lot of really frustrated people when we sit here and say, oh, it's so simple. Like, I walk 100% with the divine, and I'm on call to spirit, and I just do what spirit tells me, and what life is wonderful. Absolutely, but it wasn't always that way. And if we don't speak to that, then we set people up for failure, because that internal work is really, really important. And so the person I was, the developed aspect of me that I was moving into a space of espionage and counterintelligence, started so long before that. And so it's, I don't know about the rest of you, but this, what we're seeing in our sphere of influence with our clients and with our guests and our podcast hosts is this real kind of chasm has expanded right now. And we're, what came through for us in understanding it was this idea of the cans and the can-nots, right? Not the haves and the have-nots, but the cans and the can-nots. And I kept asking, well, can what? Like, that's awesome. It sounds really pretty, but can what? Can what? And it's this awareness that those who can access their own internal peace, that are aware of their channel with the divine, right now are able to see this hyper creative spirit and essence and energy that's in flow. Those who cannot, and who have kind of staked their claims on the external projection, are really in dire straits right now. And there's a really clear divide. Now we all kind of get to feel all of it through the collective, right? This whole me and we concept, and us and you. In our world, it's you or me, I am you, and we are we together. So we're all tracking, right, in the same concept, that there's this collective space that we can all enter into and join together, and we're of that and in that always, all the time anyway. But if we kind of lose sight of that, right, and we start thinking that we're against things, right? So basically, when our human aspect and our divine aspect kind of embattle themselves internally, we see that in the projection, which obviously we've got so much institutionally, collectively, that's got to get reworked. If it's not infused with spirit, if it wasn't built with that as the foundation, it's got to get remade. It's got to get dismantled. Some things can be simply mutated, but a lot of what we're seeing is the destructive aspect of this tower, the tower concept in the tarot, of how do we build that back up again, right? And so we're seeing some of the destruction, we're seeing some of the repairs happening, we're seeing some of the discussions, and that's what came out of this beautiful synergy right before I started speaking. What was, wow, we're all kind of sensing this. Well, we all aren't, right? It's available to all, but we all aren't, in the sense that not everyone can access that. And so speaking about that, being that, having the audacity to, when things are amazing, to speak into the fact that they are amazing, even when other people are in the perception of suffering. And it's a tough, that for this whole experience with everybody, this reworking time frame, that is the hardest thing for those who have actualized into a space where they can access that peace. the hardest thing has been the guilt of how do I sit in this amazing activated flow space that's been opened up, this creative um, just playground, and not feel guilty, because not everyone can see this, and a lot of people are suffering. Um, by our standards, absolutely, we can be empathetic, and we can meet people there, and our work is in those spaces and helping shine the light there so people can access it, and we're obligated to testify to it, right? It's a T, right? Undeniably, it's a T. We are obligated to bear witness, because otherwise, what are we all doing this for? Why bother? Right? If we don't shine that light, if we don't see this light at the end of the tunnel, why bother? And so if we don't look at, like, how did we get to that? How are we going to help other people out of it? And so the story, when you talk about, oh, let's hear about this, and oh my gosh, like the spiral, that's really fascinating, and the superpower world, that's really interesting, and the business and the success is there, and God is our CEO, and how do you do this, right? Our daughter started business at 2. I'm looking like she's like standing right here. Maybe she is. But started at 2. Sorry, in our house, there's kind of weird things that happen where energies and you get used to it. Where she started business at 2, at 7, did a keynote in front of 2,000 people, at 10 had a best-selling book, has been doing her podcast, right? Like, I could go on, and yeah, it's freaking impressive. I live with it, and it's impressive. And of course, right? Isn't that the promise? That we are so much more than we realize. We're so much more than we could ever know. That that divine aspect, like we have to stop speaking out of both sides of our mouth. We can't give credit to this amazing universal energy and divine love, and then in the next breath play it small. What are we saying? And here's where it gets even worse. Those of you who have journeyed to some degree, you've touched the hand of God, you've talked to angels, you've had a near-death experience, whatever the case may be for you, whatever your experience has been with it, whatever that awakening in you has been, that you're more than just this human body that you thought you were. However that came about for you, if you have access to that, there is a telltale sign on you. We all know it. Everybody knows it. They may not know what they're seeing, but that we can sense it. When you play small and downplay yourself after having had that experience, it becomes the word that came through is affront, but it's not in the disrespect kind of way. It's none of that. It's this, like, prior to that point, right? So let's take it back a moment. Prior to that point of actualization, purporting to be bigger than you are is a trick of the ego. Flipping it around, once you've had that interaction, purporting to be smaller than you are is a trick of the ego. It makes sense, right? Flip sides of the same coin. And so it trips us up, right? Because we want to be humble, and we want to be we don't want to say that our lives are going really, really, really fantastically when somebody else is suffering. We don't want to suggest that that there might be a way out, right? That there might be a smooth path, and perhaps we can assist them, or someone else can assist them, or whatever the case may be. Like that, how do we deal with people when we've enculturated this shared suffering? Right? It's in our language, it's in our media, it's everywhere. Like, we love to connect where things are really, really crappy. And so how do we break out of that? And it takes those of us who are courageous enough to be it in the world, to create the tipping point, the social proof, so that others will follow. There are people that aren't coming unless we prove it, right? Some say yes without ever seeing it. Some say yes with seeing a few people do it, and others, it takes success of a movement before we're willing to do that. And that's where the alignment came in so clearly with us, for one day and the one day concept. And that's why it was an honor, and it was easy to say yes to this, because those of us who can sense it are obligated to find each other and to come together. Where 2 or more of you gather in my name, there also will I be. And the exponential impact of what we call synergistic collaboration, where we get that the syncing up of our energy is really what creates between us, where spirit is present. If we don't start playing in those spaces, we're losing the opportunity, folks. I mean, someone's going to, right? But if you're positioned, if you understand what I'm saying, if you're tracking it, it resonates, and you're being lit up right now, I'm talking to you. Or if you're kind of scratching your head and you're like, I don't know what this lady's talking about, it's kind of crazy, then that's okay. You know, that's okay too. Listen to our podcast. Like, it's cool. Like, we got something for everybody. But if this is you, be this. Step into this space. And let's not forget the journey that got you to the place where you can even hear this, where it even like, oh yeah, like I get that, right? Because there are so many people stuck in those spaces. We can reach our hands out to them, but not if we're going to pretend that it's always been rainbows and unicorns, right? And maybe rainbows and unicorns now. And in this space, certainly we can see that it's always been rainbows and unicorns, but that wasn't our experience of it then. And a lot of people are stuck in that specific experience. So prior to developing the Superpower Network, right, the #1 podcast network for personal development and spiritual growth, right? Lots of fun. We're having a great time over there. So that's Superpower Experts. My husband and I both were former counterintel agents, Army, espionage, all that stuff. So those are a lot of fun stories. But right prior to that, I went through a journey that I had not set aside, certainly had integrated it, had used it, but it felt like it was perhaps its time had passed, right? It was in the past, and it served what it served. And through COVID and the racial unrest and everything that's happened, it's resurfaced. And so we ran one of the responsible pieces of our response was we ran a series called Across the Divide, Race Matters in Black and White. And in that, we talk about how myself and my partner in crime from 25 years ago, how we made some changes at Arizona State University and were involved in an uprising there. And so it's great information. If you are really fascinated with that whole conversation, want some good resources, we have that for you. But in that process, I unearthed a poem, and I'm going to close with this. I wrote it August 14th, 1995. And the gentleman I'm speaking about, 25 years ago, he and I were at Arizona State University together, and the two of us were part of a 3-student organization that, or heads of a larger organization, but we were the 3 founders of it that held back, hundreds of students from taking over the president's office when there was some really serious racial unrest here in Arizona. And we had quite the experience, as you can imagine. I ended up doing my bachelor's level thesis on how to be a white ally, and then my master's thesis on how to teach issues of race to white students. And so I was knee deep in that space for a very long time. Well, this unearthed, and so I made a commitment that I'm going to read this every time, because every time I read it, I'm brought to tears, and so I'm going to read it as long as that keeps happening, and as long as spirit guides me to do it. And I feel that today, given one day and the movement that this is a part of, I think you'll see the tie-in. It's called All Men. No, I didn't know why the caged bird sings, but I wanted to know, so I found his cage. Then asked him, why is such melodious tunes? But he laughed and said I couldn't relate. Then I read about a dreamt of world, one in which every man is free. That surprised me because we live in the States and freedom is constituted, or so it reads. And I heard stories about a preacher, a dreamer, a man who used presence and intelligence to fight. He had a dream, a beautiful dream, one for which he was forced to die. Those stories I heard because his ways were peaceful. He never suggested the tables be turned. But what of the others before him and after? What of them and their ideas have I learned? Little or nothing until I met you, but I saw something new through your eyes. Now I understand why the caged bird sings. I know why he doesn't bother to cry. I saw an anger at me and what I portray. I saw struggle, the desire to be. I know a knowledge that the wall may be invisible now, but the shackles don't need to be seen. I see that the fight has moved beyond dreams. It's been empowered. It's now one of demand. Your intelligence and knowing of all that's been taken brings you closer to making others understand. Maybe I can't relate, but if I see it through you, I can no longer ignore what is real. I can't stand by your side and fight what I was or pretend that I know how you feel. But I've seen what is wrong, I've seen what I've done, and I know what it is I must do. I'll support what must happen for the dream to live, so one day all men will include you. Thank you for the opportunity to share today, and go light up the world, folks.
Thank you so much, Tonya. That was inspiring, and just there was so much there. It was so dense, and I
I could spend hours unpacking everything that you just said, and I just appreciate your perspective and your insight. And I guess the question that's coming up for me right now is, in this ever expanding, constantly transforming world, how do we as individuals and collectively face and invite those those with undistinguished ego, undistinguished shadow, flesh, whatever you want to call it. How do we? It's like without, in my experience, when you tell people what to do, it's like, hey, you're bad, you need to change. That it's the opposite effect. No, it's like you don't. It's like meeting people where they're at. So how do we, as individuals and collectively, invite people into the space of peace, of what everything you were describing?
Beautiful. Well, I think the first thing is what came through, which is being it first and foremost. There's this undeniable kind of thing that occurs as soon as people start awakening, and it says, "Oh my gosh, I've got this information. I have to share it with everybody." And eventually they settle into the awareness, like you have your gap, you have really your level you're going to build on. You've got your home frequency, you've got your agreements with God. It's all mapped out, right? And all of it's there. And once we get over that initial enthusiasm and really do the work, this internal game that we've been talking about, you just know, right? And so I'm going to answer that in two parts. The first part is prior to that point, before you actually, until you actually are able to, with some degree of reliability, really walk as an aspect of the divine, then you're best off as the observer. Because if your pieces and parts tend to get activated, then what you're seeing in the projection is most likely that reflection. And a lot of us don't like to acknowledge that because we feel like we've done all that work. But we're broadcasting at really subtle frequencies, and we tend to like to forget that's what we're seeing come back to us. It's not until there's no activation, no triggering, no constriction whatsoever that happens anywhere in any cell of your being, when somebody does something kind of silly like that, that you know that you've been called in to really assist, as that total observer. Otherwise, we're in it. Right? It's very difficult for people to detach from their projection until they hit a certain developmental point. And so there's a both and happening there. So if you find that you're on one side of the equation where it's like, yeah, that's still, I'm irritated, like that upsets me, da 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 da. Well, then work there, right? Release that, because until you can stay in a constant state of complete flow and relaxation, no matter what's happening in your chaotic environment, then there is some aspect of you that's getting pulled in, and it makes the interpretation very muddied. For those of you who are able to hold that in a situation, then the answer is really simple, because in that situation, spirit tells you what to do. If it's yours to do, I was telling someone the other day, I said people get really irritated because they're like, Tonya's good at everything. And I was like, no, here's the secret. Like, I'm really, 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 really good at the things that are mine to do, because I always know exactly what to do, because I turned all that over to spirit a long time ago, and I don't do anything that I'm not supposed to be doing. So I look really brilliant, but really it's a joke, because I'm just doing what I know how to do and what I'm supposed to do. And so, you can look really freaking brilliant, but if it's not yours to do, you're going to know. And that's how you know that you're sitting in that space. If you go running into a battle because you're going to convert this person come hell or high water, social media folks, then you're pretty clear spirit's not guiding you into it. Spirit guiding you into it looks like you going, no, kicking and screaming and burying your toes in the sand, but you do it anyway, right? Like if you're running into the fight, it's probably some aspect of you that's highly uncomfortable. If you're being dragged, kicking and screaming, probably spirit's nudging you on.
I love it. I really appreciate you sharing all that. One other, I want to bring Tybris back in here in a moment, but one thing that keeps coming to mind as well, from what your share and just your experience in your life story, is espionage and counterintelligence. Where where the experience of truth in this globalized geopolitical world. This one day is we're apolitical, but I'm very curious to hear your perspective on especially in the perspective of intelligence, and in this new day and age where facts and truth, like, people treat it very subjectively, like where does the experience of the divine, as you described, and counterintelligence and where do you see those fitting together from your life experience?
Beautiful, beautiful question. And it still goes on like that. That's the thing I really want to thread through all of this is that whatever you've mastered, whatever you've experienced, spirit will pull forward, right? Because that's a place, as long as you're giving your gifts and turning yourself over to spirit, it's going to pull in all of those experiences. And so the answer to your question is we're in the unfoldment of it. And so how I would have answered that question prior to was I had to leave counterintel in order to experience this stuff. Perhaps that's not true. That was my path. It was extremely challenging. It was an all-male environment. I was often on all-male surveillance teams. My first book that I wrote talks about being raped by one of my team members in that world. Like there was no end to the discomfort of being in that space, like this round peg in a square hole type of construct. And yet it was so very much on purpose. And so when you look at it through those eyes, now it makes sense, right? I look incredibly good on paper, and that's very important, not because my ego needs it. It's very important because I have to be heard in certain capacities in certain ways. We all have to be heard in certain capacities in certain ways. And so that's the vernacular, that's the everything that we've got going on. But I know what you're asking. And so I had recently retired Brigadier General Robert Spalding on my show. And my show's all about disrupt reality, the woo-woos, right? We're out there, we're reshaping world, we're doing all that stuff. And I feel called to bring in this retired Brigadier General. And I'm like, what? No, God and I have a lot of conversations like that. No, thanks, find somebody else, and I pretend to resist for a little bit, and then we just know how to work. And so he comes on the show, and I'm like, I got to be honest with you, like I'm kind of fangirling right now. Like some people fangirl around celebrities. For me, it's retired brigadier generals, right? I was an Army soldier, so that kind of space. And his whole shtick right now is just really cautioning us about some of the intelligence gathering tactics of the Chinese. And I'm like, how am I going to sell this to my audience, right? It's like, I'm all about oneness and superpowers. And here I'm like, everybody be careful, right? And so, but we had this really beautiful exchange of like, how do you stay in some sort of level of awareness about some of the things happening in the projection and also not villainize a people, right? Also not villainize a culture. Also like we can't throw all of it together. And yet does it mean that we have to turn a blind eye, that we become complacent, right? How do you walk that very fine razor's edge of staying in awareness, staying proactive, and yet not allowing our fear to excuse us in any sort of dehumanization, right? And so it was such a cool exchange. And I think that everything that's coming up right now, all of these pots that are boiling up are teaching us exactly that. Like we have to figure out how to get through this together. End of story. We're not getting out of it any other way. I don't know if you all are paying attention, but that is the common thread. We will figure out how to work together. If you're not interested in that, you should just go over there. You leave us be. Like the adults needing to talk right now. Like we got to come up with some solutions.
Well, yeah. To kind of bring this full circle, and going back to what Tybris you were talking about earlier, a lot of what you're pointing to there, especially with the surrender and just letting spirit, letting God guide, to me, that's the moment when the prison becomes a playground. And it's like the key seems to be awareness. It's all about awareness, and maintaining not only awareness of my own beliefs and my own fears and my own desires, and my own traumas, but also awareness of what's happening around me through spirit, as spirit, in spirit. And to be able to be here on this planet where we're having these conversations, it just, I love it. Like this is in part what I feel like I'm here for.
Beautiful.
And there's a question in all of this that I'd like to pose to all of you. If you could sum up what you're here for in a sentence or two, what would you say? And I'll just go around the room real quick. And Tybris, since you happen to be right below me in my view, you're going to be number one here.
Well, my number one purpose in life, and I share this with others, is to be you, to be yourself. That's number one purpose. And in that, in being you, the experiences and the journey is going to break away or reveal different aspects of you. So, me being me, I am here to be living life abundantly, walking with the confidence, knowing that God is my backbone, keeping me strong through life's experiences. I am opening eyes, minds, and hearts to learn the lessons being taught. I am not ashamed of who I am. I'm set apart for greatness, Tybris. So my purpose is right there, to be myself, learn, and share and educate others, because it is my job to educate others on me, and it is others' jobs to educate me on them. The awareness you said, Matthew, is key. When you're aware of yourself, you're aware of others. Is a natural thing that happens. And so my purpose here is to be me. And then Tonya, let me just say this. When you said the social proof, I said, oh, yes, people are waiting for the manifestations and the scene. So when I say I have keys to the bank, I am fired up. There's no keeping me quiet or silent. Or I have some stuff to say. But yeah, so be me. And then that open space for you to be you. It is okay. That's how I would say that.
Amen. Tonya.
Turn everything inside out.
Yeah. That hits like short, sweet, and to the point. Beautiful. Thank you. Abram.
I would say, in the pursuit of the experience, humanity's experience of peace and transformation, to point everyone to recognize and experience the divine expression of the universe within themselves. How about you, Matthew?
I asked the question. I don't have to answer it. I was asked this question once at a retreat years ago, and I was given 3 minutes to draw it. It hasn't changed since then, although there is a word that came with it. So the drawing was a lighthouse, and the only difference between just a regular lighthouse and the one that I drew was not only was light going out into the world, but light was coming down from the top into the lighthouse and then going out into the world. And I got asked again several years later, and only one word came. I was asked to give it in a sentence or a play or a song or something like that, and only one word came, and that was shepherd. I do feel like we are in a period of massive transition. Like we're in the midst of a paradigm shift, and I suspect that part of what I came here for was to shepherd us into that new paradigm.
Beautiful. Wow. That was,
Yeah.
everybody answered really spoke a lot, and it's very beautiful. Before we finish, I just want to get everyone I want to give Tonya and Tybris an opportunity. T are both here, so I want to give you both to interact and say any last thoughts and any last words before we close up.
Tonya.
So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't share the TNT story. So I came on here and haven't met any of these people before, right? Beautiful exchange. And I was talking with Abram and Matthew ahead of time, and they were telling me about Tybris. I was like, oh, that's awesome. And I was like, another T name. I'm like, that's like TNT, like the Dynamite Women. You should call the show. We were just yucking it up, right? So Tybris comes on. So of course we fill her in, and she's like, Tybris, you share the rest of that. It's
Right,
you share the
here
part
I
about
am.
your letter. Yeah.
Okay, so when I come on and I, like Tonya, don't know anyone here, and she says TNT dynamite, and I said, "Oh my goodness, on my table right now are those letters. I have to go get them because I'm about dynamite." And so I went and got the letters TNT and showed them. Dynamite blowing up some stuff for some great things. You know, I'm military too, so sometimes I just, it's so many things that could be said. However, the takeaway or what I want to share with everybody is like, feel, if you are feeling and resonating with anything here, understand. I like what Tonya said about never negate any part of your journey that got you here. I almost fell out when you said that. I mean, never negate any part of your journey that got you here. And we are abundance and you are $1 billion, all of us. So this right here is I don't know who does math, because this is amazing, massive. So if you ever feel like you're less than, understand that you are not. You are more than, you are the one. You matter. Tybris speaks.
Oh, that's amazing. You want to say something, Matthew?
I got to throw out one thing real quick. Just a little subtitle for your tour. TNT, Tybris and Tonya testify and transform.
Wow.
I like it. Let's do it.
Whoop.
Right here. So I think
Wow.
Matthew just volunteered to be our agent,
I
Tybris.
think
That's
he
what I'm hearing.
did. I think he
That's
did.
what I heard. Yeah.
Hey,
That's what I heard. That was great.
Tell us where to be, Matthew. We'll show up.
We will
take
show
the
up
show on the
there.
road. Take the show on the road.
Man, I love to testify and transform. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. You heard it here. This is the birthing of TNT with Tonya and Tybris testify and transform. That's okay. We're gonna have both of you back, and we're gonna have part 2 of this discussion. This has been a really just a beautiful, conversation, inquiry. It always miraculously comes together. We don't plan this. Just this whole conversation just tied together in such a beautiful way. And I just really just honor and appreciate both of you just being who you are in the world, but also just sharing your story and
Yes.
just like shining your light. It's just so inspiring. And I know, I've got value. I so much beauty that I've received, but I know our listeners and viewers also, receive value from this. So just thank you so much. This has just been an amazing conversation. I'm inspired. I'm like fired up. I'm ready for TNT. I'm ready for it. But thank you both so much. This has just been a beautiful experience. So I really just so appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll see you next time, ladies. Thanks.
See y'all next time.
Sounds lovely. And thank you all you lovely people tuning in with us. Again, this is your opportunity. Please, we invite you. This is an open opportunity. Share your gift. Share who you are on the stage. It's beautiful things open up. I can't say enough. I mean, don't even take my word for it. Just like, if you have just the slightest inkling, just do it. There's something beautiful. I swear. Like, I was terrified the first time I did it. And every time it's just like, there's something miraculous that happens in this space. And it's something that I just want to invite you to be a part of, because partly selfish. I want to receive your gift, but I also want to share your gift with everybody. I want to share who you are, because like Tybris was saying, like you, it's like you are perfect. When you show up to yourself, like truly your authentic, true uppercase self, what's possible when each of us, show up in that space? What could we do together? What could we create when we collaborate? What new music and art could we create? What new spiritual collaborations could we have? What new scientific discoveries could we make? What recipes could we concoct? There's so much possibility. And that's what one day is we are in the world of what's possible. What's possible is what we choose in our conversation and what we focus on and what we envision and what we dream. And when we speak to that vision and speak to that dream, our action follows, because we stand in our word and we honor it. And that's why we're here. We are here to raise this vision. Our vision is humanity rising in a connected world with each person's unique contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. Thank you all for joining us today. We'll see you next week on Tuesday. I love you all. Be safe, be well, and until next time, one day is today.